Hello, good game. Welcome back, ghouls and goblins. I hope you're all having a magical day. Thank you so much for taking the time to support the channel. Talking about the economy within Magic the Gathering Arena, thanks to our dear friends at MTG Weekly, a show live on Twitch within the Magic channel that talks about different topics, Magic the Gathering as a whole, whether it be Arena, Paper, Magic Online, or even whatever else they've got. I'm sure, right? The news and announcements on the business side. So, really talking about everything on their show, which is super exciting. Like I said today, the economy. We'll have a link for the channel in the description if you're unfamiliar with Magic's official Twitch channel. Lots of cool content there. Always. Today, you'll receive a supercut of that video. It was about an hour in length. I've trimmed it down to just over 15 minutes, which is a godsend as far as I'm concerned. Woof. These guys talk more than I do. And then after this, we're going to wrap up, kind of with my final thoughts on everything. So buckle up, get ready. I hope you enjoy. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, share the channel out to your friends, your families, whatever. And even become a YouTube member to gain access to content or financially. With this out of the way, let's get in today's recap.
Yeah, so Chris is, as I said, the executive producer for MTG Arena, so he's the man with all the answers. Every single answer. We consider this the start of a conversation. This isn't an endpoint. We're not going to come in here and solve everybody's problems immediately. You don't want to hear me talk, you want to hear Chris talk.
The gameplay or some of the other trappings around, Magic in general. If that's the target, kind of where are some of the areas where we maybe knowingly didn't target, and those kinds of areas are things like, I am a person who wants to collect a full set. Mm-hmm. This economy doesn't support that particularly well. We know that. Being able to trade those resources and focus on the things you want is very important. So that's where the wildcard system comes from, mm-hmm. right? And the wildcard system is built to effectively be that dusting system, mm-hmm. but rather than tying it to destroying cards and destroying your collection, we tie it to something that's inherently part of Magic and inherently supposed to be fun, which is opening boosters, mm-hmm. right? That is built off of the idea of opening the pack is the way that you're getting the dust, the things that you would have destroyed. Mm-hmm. We're just giving you that up front.
Okay. Completing a collection is not, this economy is not especially well suited for that.
Correct. We know that if you are a person who likes to dabble in a lot of decks, build a lot of decks, or try a lot of things, that sometimes there can be some hurdles for you. Mm-hmm. Again, the way it's built is you have to have a pretty robust collection to be able to bounce around like that.
Sure.
We know that is a pain point and can be problematic. Mm-hmm. If you're trying to build your collection, Limited is a really good way to do that, because as part of the game experience, you're opening a bunch of cards and mm-hmm. building your collection. You're also playing and earning prizes. Mm-hmm. If you don't like Limited, you don't have that option to you. Wild cards are a valuable commodity in this economy, right? You mm-hmm. want to make sure that you're spending them. In set completion, we know that as you get closer, it's going to be easier to get, more of the rares, and then mythics become a problem over time. Mm-hmm. And the way we have duplicate protection in the packs is that as you get closer to rare complete, opening boosters just feels worse, because you're really just looking for the mythics in there, and if you have mm-hmm. all of the rares, you're getting the duplicate protection gems instead. Mm-hmm. We're going to sell a pack that is mythic guaranteed. Okay. So when you buy this pack, it'll cost 1,300 gold. Okay. There'll be a gem bundle that you can get like 10 of them for gems instead. Mm-hmm. But the baseline is 1,300 gold. When you open that, the rare or mythic slot will be either a wild card, a rare or mythic wild card, mm-hmm. or it will be a mythic from that set.
Okay.
And we're going to start that with Neo. Mm-hmm. So we're going to offer a wild card bundle mm-hmm. That you can just buy in the store.
Okay, so direct purchase of
direct purchase. It'll be 12 rare wild cards and 4 mythic rare wild cards. Mm-hmm. You can buy this from the store. It's $49.99. The bundle gives you slightly better amount of rares and wild cards than you would get just by opening those 50 packs, but you're losing out on maybe some of the randomness that might help build your collection. So it's a trade-off that I think players get to make.
So why is dusting not on the menu for Arena?
Partly for the reason I talked about earlier, which is we account for that when you open packs. Mm-hmm. So, we built the system to reward the fun of opening packs, and then you build towards your wild cards. The reason we don't do dusting is, again, it was a decision we made early on where what we wanted to prevent is the looking through your collection, trying to decide what you want to destroy. And for some, and I don't want to, like, for some people that's going to be an easy decision. They know exactly what they want, and they'll be able to destroy something. But for a lot of our players, that's actually a hard decision. It's going to be going to Reddit and, like, here's my collection. What should I destroy?
Yeah.
Right. What is the best thing? How do I make sure I don't make a mistake? And with Magic, you know that whenever a new set releases, everything can change. You can destroy cards that, 6 months ago weren't seeing a lot of play and were not valuable. And now you won't have those when the next thing comes along and starts making pieces of your collection more interesting. Those will be gone. You'll have to then recreate those or recraft those or now destroy a different swath of things to get the thing that you already got rid of once. So one of the things we're trying to do in this is, make it fun, give you that dusting experience up front. Obviously, it's not called dusting, but do that up front.
Where you get a fraction of a card up front.
Yeah, right. Each pack is very much a tick towards your next wild card, and prevent the feel bads that can happen when you destroy collections, particularly in those, anybody who's not an expert, right, is going to struggle a little bit more than the top tier players who know exactly what they want. Hopefully, again, in the economy that we have, that a lot of the players are playing and engaging in the systems and have a fairly robust collection. So getting to their next deck is hopefully not too much of a problem. The big problem comes when wild swings in deck, like, oh, I've been playing some, Boros deck forever, and now I want to jump into, something Simic, and now there's not a lot of overlap there. That's where some of the pain is, and that's where, again, we hope that something like, a wild card bundle will just kickstart that. You'll have a bunch of the commons and uncommons.
We got on a little sidetrack there, although I know that was something the audience wanted to hear.
So one of the things we're doing here soon, probably April, May timeframe, is we're going to update some of the constructed events to be more similar to what we do with draft. You'll get gems, you'll get boosters as part of doing well. We'll have slightly different structures for best of 1 and best of 3. But the hope there is that by changing what the rewards look like and how you're playing, you're going to have more meaningful progress for collection for opting into a constructed event than you might currently have. Right? We really want to provide a way for people to test decks, to experiment with things they might not be able to build yet, in a way that is readily accessible. We do this a little bit from time to time with what we call the all access events.
Sure.
Right, where you can join an event, you can build whatever you want. We've done it for Historic, we've done it for, I think, Alchemy and Standard. We do it on and off. We want something along those lines in a way that isn't just a point-in-time event, but is part of a process, like you can go test event. Now, whether that's against, Sparky, and you're just, to use a term that maybe not everyone knows, gold fishing, right? Just trying to see how well your deck does in a short amount of time and make sure that it feels right. Or if it's, some other way for you to, we'll say, borrow cards in some form. We don't have the exact form that we want this to take, but this is the kind of thing that we're talking about.
Try it before you buy it kind of situation.
Correct.
That's.
Oh, this doesn't work the way I thought it did, and now I'm sad. But we will have here in the next, month or two, a non-rotating format that you can play with tabletop print cards. No digital-only cards, no digital rebalances. It will just be printed or not printed.
We have more alchemy-focused draft and sealed events to help build collections. Is that a possibility?
So we knew that when we talk about adding cards, we knew that the amount of cards would be something we have to manage very closely. The first Alchemy drop was kind of a double drop because Mid and Vow was kind of a double set, so we tied into that. And to have enough to launch the format with.
Sure.
Our regular drops are always going to be right in that 30 card range, and it's really hard to have anything with that few cards have some sort of limited experience to go along with that. When we had settled on boosters, we had talked about, all right, is there an opportunity to include Alchemy in a draft? of some sort.
Yeah.
And there still is an opportunity, but it wouldn't be a regular thing. It would be a sometimes thing if we went down that route.
The question is, it feels really bad when we get our 8th+ copy of the same rare from 2 different sets with the exact same art even. This was an issue, I think, with Jumpstart, particularly.
And it happens whenever we reprint.
Yeah. It says, why not auto-dust those for us?
The short answer is technology. I believe we have announced, and if we haven't, I'm going to preview it now.
Okay.
The ability to like set your favorite land, and
We haven't announced that, so continue.
Great. So that's coming. Scroll through every land, just set a favorite, and that'll be your default. That tech also will help us solve this other problem.
Okay.
Now, we don't have a solution right now.
Okay.
This tech lets us start solving for that. I don't know exactly what the solution will be, but it is more possible now than it was, a month ago.
Okay.
So, but we are aware of it, and we will make progress towards figuring out, all right, how do we prevent this from happening?
Okay.
But that helps us go, all right, how do we solve for when there is a reprint? And people don't need 12 copies of Duress
Right.
to be like one of the more common examples.
Yeah.
Both, sorry about that.
Both common. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
that's dumb. So we know that's a problem. Reprinted rare lands are another one of those that those come back every so often.
Yeah.
Right. How do we solve for that?
Yeah. No dusting. But what about converting common and uncommon wild cards for a rare mythic? So not dusting, but like trading up. I know a lot of people end up with a lot of common, a lot of uncommon wild cards. That is the question, yeah.
So the lot of common and uncommon wild cards is part of how we design the economy.
Okay.
Again, when we talk about regrets and feel bads, one of the things we wanted to prevent is anybody ever being unable to create a deck that they wanted because they didn't have uncommons. So we over-index on common and uncommon wild cards in the distribution of wild cards.
Okay.
Which is why we haven't even talked about that as a possibility.
Okay.
If we were going to do that, we would have to change a big chunk of how we distribute things.
Okay.
So, and it's just, again, we aren't talking about that right now.
Sure. Mythic packs replace mythic ICRs on future mastery passes.
Maybe. There's no technological reason why we can't do that.
Okay. What about reimbursements for nerfed cards, so cards that are rebalanced to be less powerful in historic? Can we get our wild cards back? Before you launch into that, I'm gonna be corporate chill for a sec. It is worth pointing out that there were a bunch of nerfed cards, rebalanced cards, and it was Alchemy, so a little different, but that did show up in the event, the championship this past weekend. So they do still get played, but it's still a reasonable question. This card that I had that I exchanged a wild card for maybe no longer does what I needed to do. So is there any discussion in that area?
That one's slightly more complicated. In the goal, again, of having a fast digital format was for us to be able to make changes quickly.
Yeah.
Both positive and negative. We've had, some of the rebalances were very heavily skewed towards just cards got better. A couple of them got worse.
The whole dungeon
Correct.
deck,
Hey, let's find cards that we think have interesting potential, but may have missed the mark.
Yep.
And make them better. And we saw with Venture, we saw that, and it actually did well in the set championship. Right?
Yep.
In order to maintain that, we needed to be able to free designers to make changes without what's the cost.
Right.
Right. It is a thing that we have to be aware of. So that's part of that equation on why as we launch, we don't do refunds. Now,
will constructed events either impact rank or have some other meaningful organized play path?
Short answer is yes.
Okay.
And we're not ready to talk about it.
Will we get more historic anthologies?
Yes. Rebalance and ban cards. So the Hope and Alchemy is never ban cards, only rebalance.
Yep.
And rebalances are a combination of data and then effort to deliver.
Yeah.
So we have to see some of the results and some of the things that we want to balance before we can balance them. And then any changes we make to cards are still coding changes that have to be built, tested, deployed.
Yeah.
And so about every 3 weeks is a cadence that we're relatively comfortable with. Will ICRs ever get duplicate protection? The answer is maybe. There's some technical challenges with how we deliver ICRs that makes duplicate protection hard.
Okay.
So in some spaces they are actually duplicate protected, but because it's not everywhere, we don't advertise that.
Okay.
Will there be more remaster draft sets? Not currently on our radar.
Okay.
Doesn't mean never. There's a lot of space available in the history.
Yeah.
You know,
But there's nothing
what's to come.
currently planned.
Nothing currently planned.
Okay.
So let's talk about Vault. So Vault was our original swing at duplicate protection.
Sure.
Way back when.
Yeah.
And then we came up with the current version of duplicate protection and said we were going to remove the Vault.
Yeah.
And then we just didn't, because what happens in the Vault is that you open up, duplicate commons and uncommons, which happens quite a bit. You just get progress in your Vault, and eventually it shows up on your screen, and you can open it. You get some wild cards. For us, we think that that's just a nice little bonus. We don't.
Sure.
It's not an integral part of the economy anymore, but we leave it as a bonus for people who end up opening a bunch of things.
Yeah.
And when you talk about, again, why packs over things, like when you open packs, you do make progress towards that Vault eventually over time, and it's a nice little bonus. We look at Brawl and Historic Brawl as additional formats for fun, for variation, and less competitive. So we don't want competitive pressure on formats where we hope that the primary goal is fun.
Okay.
Competitive pressure just does some odd things. Now,
are there any economy considerations for limited players with hundreds of spare wild cards and unopened packs? So someone who goes on Arena to play limited, the rewards they get, they're not interested in constructed.
That's a really good question. Some of it stems from we think having a collection is valuable. We know that not every player wants a collection.
Yeah.
One of the things that you would talk about, like, what are ways that you would prevent some of that, which is a Phantom event or a different reward structure or whatever. But we do want to be cautious about who is playing in the formats and what the their ultimate goal is.
Yeah.
I'll say that right now, if your only goal is to chain limited and you're getting boosters, that's not necessarily going to be a thing that's super rewarding for you.
Right.
We don't have any specific plans to address that or adjust that at this time.
Okay. Why don't you include pack codes in physical packs?
Why don't we do that?
Yes. So, slight correction, we do include some codes in packs.
We do
but
some.
they're-
We do. Primarily we do. Primarily, one of the things we like to do is we like to reward experiences.
Yep.
A lot of the times over just raw product.
Yeah.
So when you do pre-release,
I was going to say I opened a pre-release pack today, and yeah.
those have codes because we have this experience, and then you go do the thing, and then you're going to experience other things. The problem with just bulk packs is that the tabletop audience is much larger than the arena audience, and so a lot of people who get those they're not useful to them.
Yeah.
So, and we just want to be careful about how we distribute things and who gets what. So
The scale is different, is what you're
it's
saying.
it's very different.
Okay. Can we get wild card track progression from opening limited packs? So the same way you do it for when you open a booster pack separately, they're asking, could you get that track progression from opening packs by playing limited?
In theory, yes, but again, it's not a thing that we're talking about.
Okay.
Holy Toledos. That certainly is a lot of information to parse. Let's go through, some of my thoughts and wrap up with today's video. First off, $50 for 12 rares, in which I have over 600 of, and only 4 mythics, which I have 30 of, does not seem like an attractive way for an individual like myself to complete their collection. Now, I know from what they've said that this is their goal with the wildcard pack for the completionists, so they're not hunting through gems, and for individuals just looking for a slight boost. This boost does come as you've heard, at a slight disadvantage through your general collection, which I'm not a big fan of, right? We already know that opening packs is strictly worse than going 0 and 3 in the draft events. So now we're falling further away from the tree for the hope of instant gratification on wildcards. Seems sort of weird for me on the outside. Now this is because I don't need rare mythics to complete my collection. I have all the rare. What I don't have is the hundreds and hundreds of mythics I am missing 4 of with only 30 mythic wildcards. As a content creator, I want to create all of those crazy decks for you guys to save your wildcard collection. But even someone who's dropping hundreds and hundreds of dollars into the game every month is lacking those mythic wildcards while having an influx of the rare. We've seen that there will be no upgrading of the wildcards, heard that directly. So Sag, what are we left to do? Well, this brings us to the new packs, the mythic packs for 1300 gold. I think this is fantastic. However, it will only be for current and future sets by the sounds of things. So for an individual like myself, and I'm sure many of you are in my shoes as well, there's a lot of cards to collect for our historic portion. Very hard to accomplish, especially for the jump start, right? Historic Modern Horizons. These sets have a ton of mythics within them that can really only be accumulated through the wildcard system. Oh, Holy Toledo's $50 is expensive. The mythic packs going through to the future, as they will be, purchasable with gold and through a bundle of gems, I think will be the best value for someone who wants those mythic wildcards, right? There is duplicate protection, so why wouldn't we just do this? We're gonna have to run the numbers. That'll be in a future video, maybe before the next set drops. We'll really go through the math, what the differences are between the two options to complete your collection, because obviously we've done that in the future just through the packs, right? I love doing the set completion math and then comparing it to the free-to-play completion through the drafts, which is exciting. So look forward to that in the future. They mentioned how Brawl is a fun format. They don't want to add rank to it because it would add a competitive anxiety to the queue, which I find to be relatively true. However, bronze ranked matches aren't stressful like mythic ranked matches. Am I right? Plus, because there is no rank attached to it or reward for win or loss, people will concede. And now, is that fun? No, that's a big reason I don't play Brawl, is because, you kind of get set up a slight advantage and your opponent's boom, I'm out of here, not playing, and now I've just, played my first 4 turns for what? Really nothing, because it's not fun unless you get to complete the match, but there's no incentive to complete the match when you're losing if there's no rank, right?